Make Square at dawn. The village still sleeps when the market begins to stir. The sky is pale, the first blush of morning touching clouds, and our air carries the crisp coolness of night not yet released by the sun. Birds chatter softly in hedges, roosters crow from distant yards, dogs stretch and shake their fur, tails thumping against wooden doors. From every corner of the countryside, people begin to arrive, carts creaking, footsteps shuffling, voices low and drowsy. The market square, quiet only an hour before, is now awakening into life. At the center of the village, the square waits. Its ground is cobbled or perhaps beaten earth, worn smooth by countless feet, countless hooves. Around it stand the buildings of the town, the church with its bell tower just catching light, the inn with smoke beginning to curl from its chimney, the guild hall with shutters still closed but banners hanging from its beams. Between these walls, the square is a stage, and today it'd be filled with color, sound, and scent. The first to arrive are often the farmers, trudging in from fields still heavy with dew. They lead donkeys or oxen pulling carts stacked with sacks of grain, with baskets of vegetables, with crates of apples, with cages of apples, with cages of apples that cluck in complaint at the jostling. Their boots are muddy, their hands rough, their eyes still blinking away sleep, yet there is a kind of pride in their arrival. For what they bring is food itself, the daily gift of earth and labor, and it is soon feed both humble cottage and lordly hall. Merchants come too, their wares carried from farther afield. A man from the coast brings barrels of herring packed in salt, the tang sharp even through the staves. A cloth seller lays out bolts of wool in russet and green, thick and coarse, woven from sheep on far hills. A peddler sets down his pack, unrolling strings of beads, knives with bright polished blades, little combs carved from bone, and charms of pewter. He yawns, stretches his back, then calls to a fellow trader, their voices echoing in the square growing bustle. Stalls take shape one by one. Wooden frames are raised, canvas cloths stretched overhead, tables unfolded, barrels rolled into place. Men hammer stakes, women arrange baskets, children scamper to fetch water or hold ropes steady. Soon the square begins to bloom, like a garden, each stall a flower opening with its own hue and fragrance. One is green with cabbages and leeks, another red with apples and cherries, another gold with honey jars that glisten when the sun finally crests the roofs. Smells mingle in the morning air. Fresh bread from the baker oven drifts across the square, rich and warm, its crusts crackling and loaves are stacked high. Smoke from a brazier carries the aroma of roasting chestnuts, sweet and nutty, a promise of comfort on a cool day. A butcher sharp pet his knife, and the iron tang of blood mixes with the spice of herbs laid out by the apothecary. Sage, thyme, rosemary, mint, the air itself becomes a feast, each breath a reminder of plenty. The sounds of the market begin soft, then swell. At first it is only the creak of wheels, the soft thud of sacks laid down, the clink of a jug upon a tail. Then voices join, greetings exchanged, laughter shared, questions asked, instructions told. Chicken protest in wicker cages, geese honk indignantly, a goat tugs at its rope, bells on its collar jingling. A dog barks, a baby cries, a woman hushes him with a lullaby, her song weaving through the noise. And overhead, the church bell tolls the hour, its deep note rolling across roofs, telling all within earshot, the market day has begun. As the sun climbs, color fills the square. Bright cloth flutters in the breeze, scars of crimson and blue, dyed with madder and woad. Painted pottery gleams with earthy reds and deep browns, bowls and pitchers stacked carefully, each one catching the light. Fruits shine like jewels, plums deep purple, pears green gold, cherries scarlet. Even simple onions and turnips carry their own beauty piled in mounds, their skins glossy in morning brightness. Amid them, the people themselves add to the spectacle. When with kerchiefs of patterned linen, men with leather belts and woolen cloaks, children darting in tunics patched and mended but bright-eyed with excitement. The square is not only trade but meeting place. Neighbors pause to exchange news, voices low at first, then warming. The barley is good this year, the Lord men passed through yesterday. The midwife says another child is on the way. Gossip and tidings travel quickly at goods, carried from lip to lip, binding village to village, family to family. In this way, the market is a web of connection, each voice a thread, weaving the community tighter. There is also a sense of expectation. Market day is not every day. It is a special rhythm arriving weekly or perhaps monthly depending on the village. For N, it is the only chance to sell surplus, the only chance to buy what cannot be made at home. For others, it is a social gathering, a moment to see faces beyond the cottage door, to hear new songs, to taste new foods. Children especially feel this excitement, tugging at sleeves, darting wide-eyed through the growing crowd, pointing at bright ribbons, sweet figs, little carved toys. As morning decay, the market square becomes a world in itself, bustling, alive. The farmer Hager cart is lighter now, sacks sold or bartered. The pedant has coins clinking in his pouch, a smile on his face as he fasts a brooch onto a woman cloak. The baker wipes flour from his brow, calling out for more loaves from his apprentice. A minstrel arrives, lute in hand, plucking strings, his song rising above chatter, drawing a small circle of listeners. Laughter joins, coins clink, applause follows. The market is not only commerce but theater, a performance where each participant plays their part. Pause-eyed and driven with thee, the cobbles warm beneath the sun, the air alive with smells of bread and spice, smoke and herbs, the square filled with color-green cabbages, red cherries, golden honey, blue scarves, the sounds laughter, bargaining, bleating, barking bells, the feeling of life concentrated, of community drawn together, of abundance and exchange. For those who lived in the Middle Ages, the market square at dawn was more than a place. It was rhythm, it was necessity, it was joy. It was wed the work of fields and flocks became food and goods, wed coins changed hands, wed songs were sung, wed news was spread, wed life itself was stitched together. So the sun rises higher, the market grows full, its heart beating strong. The square is awake, alive, open. The day stretches ahead, rich with promise. And for those who walk among its stalls, it is not only trade but memory, not only necessity but wonder. The market square at dawn is the beginning of a day that we end in stories, laughter, and rest. By mid-morning, the market square is a river of voices. Where at dawn there was quiet bustle, now there is full chorus traders calling out their wares, customers bargaining, children laughing, animals braying. It is a symphony of daily life, woven from 100 small sounds that together form the song of the marketplace. Fine wool, thick and warm for winter nights it cries, a cloth merchant, his stall draped with folded bolts. He lifts one proudly, spreading it wide to show its breadth, the weave tight, the color deep, woven in the hills, dyed with woad, fit for cloak or gown mere. Beside him, a woman holds a length of cloth against her arm, gauging its shade in the light, murmuring to her friend about the number of pennies in her purse. Fish, fish, pulled from the river this very dawn, F, shouts another, his hands still damp from nets. Silver scales trout lie upon a board, their eyes bright, their bodies sleek. A boy points eagerly, tugging at his mother's sleeve, whispering of roasting them over coals. She shakes her head at the price, yet her eyes linger too, for the fish gleam with temptation. Everywhere, voices rise and fall. Some are loud and rhythmic, chants meant to catch the ear. Apples red, apples sweet. A penny for two, come taste the feast. Others are soft and persuasive, coaxing rather than commanding. See the stitchwork here, fine and strong, a purse that will last many winters. Some are sharp with bargaining, quick words exchanged like strokes of a blade. Mingled among them are the laughter and calls of children darting between stalls, chasing dogs, begging for sweets. Please, father, just one honey cake. Leah's mother, the ribbons are so pretty. Their voices are not ignored but woven into the whole, for the market is much for them, there for their parents. Colors dazzle the eyes, Vachvai's voices fill the ears. Stalls shine under the patchwork quilt, each square of the market boasting its own palette. At the fruit seller table, baskets overflow, plum deep purple, pears green gold, cherries scarlet. Apples gleam with waxy skins, their scent tart and sweet at once. Children bite into them, juice running down their chins, their laughter sticky with delight. At the cloth merchant stall, bold hues ripple russet, indigo, forest green, dyes made from plants and roots, from madder and woad, give fabric a richness beyond the dull browns of daily wear. A woman trails her fingers across a length of blue, marveling at its depth, while her husband counts coins nervously in his palm. At the potter booth, clay turned into art shines beneath the sun, jugs painted with spirals of red and black, bowls glazed in earthy greens, pitchers shaped with wide mouths. Each piece cuts the lie differently. Ye glossy water, is matte as stone. A potter demonstrates with a practiced hand, spinning clay upon a wheel, the shape rising smooth and steady. A small crowd gathers, watching a lump becomes vessel, their faces alight with wonder. Then there is the apothecary tave, a garden of dried herbs. Bundles of sage, thyme, rosemary, and mint hang in fragrant clusters, their leaves crackling, their scents sharp and clean. Small jars hold powders, some for healing, and for dye, and for seasoning. The merchant speaks softly, his words laced with mystery. This one eases fever, this one sweet pear breath, this one brings sleep. Buyers lean close, inhaling, listening, choosing with care, for health itself seems to rest in his hands. Animals add their own colors, their own presence. Heads cluck from wicker cages, their feathers white and brown, their combs bright red. Geese flap and honk, wings flailing until soothed by firm hands. Sheep bleat, their wool thick and tangled, soon to be shorn and spun. Dogs dart and bark, tails wagging, tongues lolling, chasing one another between legs. The market is not only human, it is a gathering of lives, fur and feather, muchness, flesh and cloth. Bargaining is its own art, its own dance of voices. A farmer sets down a basket of eggs. A woman inspects them, one by one, shaking her head at the cracked shells. He protests, insisting they are good, fresh, laid only yesterday. She counters with vet off of half his asking. He sighs, shakes his head, names a price between. Back and forth they go, until at last the eggs are wrapped in cloth and coins exchanged. Both smile, both satisfied, each certain they have won. Not on voices are for trade, some are simply for greeting and news. Neighbors meet after weeks apart, clasping hands, embracing. How is your father health? How did the harvest fare? Did you hear of the fair at the next town? Such conversations ripple through the square, stitching lives together, carrying tidings, weaving community. The market is as much about belonging as about buying. And there are voices raised in song. A minstrel strums a lute, his voice carrying above the crowd. A woman hums, she sells ribbons, her melody sweet and steady. A group of children clap in rhythm, chanting rhymes they learned from older siblings. Music blends with trade, with laughter, with gossip, until the square itself seems to sing. Pause eyed and take it in, hear the overlapping chorus merchants shouting, customers haggling, children laughing, animals crying, bells ringing, a minstrel singing. Smell the mingled scents, bread fresh and warm, herbs sharp, meat roasting, apples sweet, fish briny. See the riot of colors, cloth dyed blue and red, pottery gleaming, fruit piled high, ribbons fluttering in breeze. Feel the press of the crowd, warm and close, the energy of life there in one place. For the people of the Middle Ages, the market was not only necessity but wonder. It was a tapestry woven of voices and colors, scents and sounds. It was a place where daily life became spectacle, where even the humblest could marvel. With the ordinary gleamed day extraordinary, and the sun climbs higher, the square grows louder, brighter, fuller. Voices rise, colors deepen, the market is at its height. The day stretches on, promising more sights, more sounds, more life. The market is awake, and all who enter are swept into its song. By midday, the market square hums, not only with voices and laughter, but with the deeper music of labor. The stalls are bright, the merchants loud, yet beneath their cries rises another rhythm, the steady beat of hammers, the rasp of saws, the scrape of knives on whetstone, the whir of spinning wheels. Work itself becomes part of the market life, a performance made much with a necessity, drawing eyes, well it coins. At the corner of the square stands the blacksmith's stall, his forge glows red, heat shimmering in the air, smoke curling upward to join the sky. Each strike of his hammer rings sharp and clear, a sound that carries above chatter, above animal cries, above song, clang, clang, clang. Sparks leap like fireflies fading into daylight. He shapes iron into nails, into horseshoes, into hinges for doors, into knives for kitchens. Children gather, eyes wide, watching the glow of metal, the transformation of shapeless bar into tool. Their mothers tug at their sleeves, that even as they are led away, they glance back, entranced by the magic of fire and strength. Beside him, a cooper works with wood. His hands are skilled, his tools worn smooth with this. Staves of oak stand ready, curved and sturdy. One by one, he fits them together, binding them with iron hoops, testing the fit with keen eye. The scrape of his draw knife, the thud of his mallet, the creak of wood bending L join the market song. Soon a barrel takes form, round and strong, ready to hold ale, salted fish, or grain. Farmers pause to watch, knowing their harvests will depend on his work, knowing his craft is as vital as their own. A weaver displays his loom, set beneath a canopy for shade. The shuttle passes back and forth, the threads pulled tight, the pattern growing inch by inch. The loom hums with movement, a rhythm steady and hypnotic. The clack of wood, the swish of yarn, the tap of feet pressing treadles. Women stop to run fingers along finished cloth, marveling at its strength, its smoothness. Some by head only watch, their hearts stirred by the patience of the craft, by the beauty rising from simple threads. At another stall, the potter turns his wheel, clay spinning beneath wet hands. He shapes a jug, then a bowl, then a narrow-necked pitcher. Each form emerges as if from water, rising soft and pliant before hardening into lasting shape. The wheel hums, the clay squelches, his fingers smooth and coax, and the crowd leans in, watching lumps of earth become vessels to carry ale, soup, and milk. Children whisper in awe, how can mud become beauty? How can water and hand and fire join to create something so lasting? Elsewhere, a baker kneads dough, his arms dusted white with flour. He presses and folds, his motions steady, his face glowing with warmth from the oven behind. The scent drifts across the square bread, baking, crust browning, sweetness rising. He slides loaves onto wooden paddles, pushes them deep into the glowing oven, then draws out others, steaming, golden, their crusts cracking as they cool. People line before his stall, eager, for bread is life, and it is fresh, hot, irresistible. A butcher sharp his knives, the rasp loud and steady. His table is laid with cuts of pork, with sides of beef, with chickens plucked and ready. His cleaver falls with weight, thud, splitting bone, portioning meat. Dogs hover nearby, tails wagging, hoping for scraps. Children wrinkle noses at the iron tang, but also stare, curious, at the butcher confidence, his certainty in his task. Customers argue over price, but they come nonetheless, for his stall pods what no garden or field can give. Not far away, a carpenter works at planks, saw rasping, plane shaving, chisel tapping. His bench is strewn with curls of wood, pale and fragrant. He fashions stools, spoons, and sturdy chests, his hands moving with assurance. Shavings gather at his feet, soft straw, curling like ribbons. A boy snatches one, tucks it behind his ear like a feather, laughing ere his friends chase him. The carpenter smiles, shakes his head, and continues his work, each cut a note in the music of the day. The cobblers, too, make their presence known, their awls punch fools, their hammers tap pegs, their fingers pull leather taut, boots are repaired, sandals patched, belts stitched, customers stand testing fit, pacing in circles while others wait their turn. The smell of leather, sharp, earthy, comforting, mingles with the sweetness of honey cakes and the tang of fish. Even this scent becomes part of the memory of the market, carried home upon clothes and skin. There are smaller trades, still the comb maker shaping bone, the candle maker pouring tallow, the spinner drawing wool into thread, the tinker mending pots with careful taps. Each sound, though small, adds to the chorus, filling spaces between louder calls. Each is necessary, each a thread in the tapestry of work. Together, these sounds create a market symphony. The hammer ring, the saw rasp, the shuttle swish, the wheel hum, the oven crackle, the knife thud, they eke, overlap, mingle with voices and laughter until the square becomes not only a place of trade but a hall of music, music born not of instrument, but of hand and tool, of labor turned to song. Pause ye and listen with me. Close your eyes, hear the clang of the blacksmith hammer, steady, unyielding, hear the scrape of the cooper draw-knife shaping wood to circle. Hear the swish of the weaver shuttle, the hum of the potter wheel, the thud of the baker paddle sliding loaves. Hear the soft rasp of a cobbard stitching leather, the ring of a tinker mallet upon tin. This is the music of the marketplace, the heartbeat of the town. For those who lived in the Middle Ages, such sounds were not background but life itself. They spoke of skill, of provision, of community. Each craft fed another bread for the carpenter, shoes for the weaver, pots for the baker, barrels for the brewer. No man, no woman lived alone in their labor. Each depended upon the other, each voice adding strength to the whole. So midday passes, the square resounds with this chorus of work. Stalls are busy, coins change hands, goods are carried away, yet still the sounds continue, steady, patient, sure. For in this music lies more than trade. It is memory, it is identity, it is the very song of medieval life. If sound is the music of the market, then scent is its memory. Long after the cries of merchants fade, long after the colors blur in recollection, the smells remain woven into clothes, into hair, into the folds of cloaks carried home. The medieval market is a feast of fragrance, sweet and sharp, savory and smoky, mingling in the air until every breath is rich. At the edge of the square, a baker's stall draws crowds. The scent of bread is irresistible, fresh loaves with crusts browned and crackling, round flatbreads soft and pliant, sweet rolls dusted with honey. The air is warm with yeast and grain, with the earthy tang of flour baked golden. A woman breaks a loaf, steam rising in the cool morning air, the scent alone enough to make mouths water. Children hover near, eyes wide, waiting for the smallest scrap to be handed down. Beside him, a man roasts chestnuts over a brazier, their shells split with a faint crack, releasing nutty sweetness into the air. He stirs them with a long wooden spoon, turning them so they roast evenly, their fragrance drifting across the square. Customers draw close, coins in hand, eager for the warmth of chestnuts on a cold day, the taste of their soft flesh against the bite of the air. Nearby, a seller of honey and mead uncorks a jar and sweetness floods outward thick, golden, sticky with the scent of summer. Bees hover, drawn to their own work transformed, while children lick honey from wooden spoons, their fingers shining with amber gloss. Jars glimmer in sunlight, each a captured glow, each a memory of blossom and field turned to treasure. Beside them, bottles of made release their heady perfume, a promise of warmth, laughter, song. The fishmonger tave carries another note, sharper Brinian, salted herring lie stacked in barrels, their scent strong, almost overwhelming, yet welcome to those who depend on such fare through winter. Fresh trout and eels gleam upon wooden boards, their smell of river water and scales softened by the greenery scattered around them. Buyers wrinkle noses but still come, for fish means food and fish means life. The air here is sharper, tangier, but part of the chorus nonetheless. From the butcher stall comes the smell of meat, rich and heavy. Pork roasting on a spit drips fat onto coals, the smoke curling upward, carrying with it the aroma of feast. Sausages sizzle, their skins blistering, their scent spiced with pepper and garlic. A boy gnaws eagerly at one handed to him, juice running down his chin, his grin bright. Blood puddles beneath the butcher block, iron sharp, but no one shies away, for such smells are as much part of life as bread or honey. The herb seller's table offers another world entirely. Bundles of rosemary and thyme scent the air with sharpness. Sage gives its earthy depth. Mint adds freshness. Dried lavender in small cloth pouches perfumes the air with sweetness, said to calm the heart, to ease the mind. Women bend close, inhaling, choosing with care. The scents mingle not only in flavors for food, but in cures for illness, is charms against bad air. For in these bundles lies not only taste, but health, a garden there then offered. Then come the spices, rare and precious. A merchant lifts the lid of a box, and the air changes suddenly richer, sharper, distant lands carried in a breath. Cinnamon, warm and sweet, clove, sharp fire, pepper biting the tongue, nutmeg, musky and deep. Buyers lean close, inhaling with wonder, for these scents are not daily fare but luxuries, tokens of wealth and celebration. A single pinch transforms a dish, a single whiff transforms to ports and ships, to markets beyond the sea. The spice seller guards his wares carefully, measuring with precision, each grain worth more than gold. Sweet treats call well, honey cakes studded with nuts, their scent rich and inviting, sugared almonds rare and glittering, carried in small cones of paper. Dried fruits, figs, dates, raisins, each carrying the sun of distant lands, their sweetness concentrated, their aroma thick. Children tug at sleeves, begging for a taste, and sometimes, if coins allow, they are rewarded with a small piece. Their joy filling the air wins brightly at the scent itself. Elsewhere, the ale seller's taps a barrel, and the yeasty, malty aroma rises, foamy and sharp. Wooden mugs are filled, passed from hand to hand, their warmth spreading through bodies chilled by morning air. Men gather, laughing, drinking, their voices rising with the cheer that ale brings. Beside them, a woman stirs spiced wine over coals, its scent of cinnamon and clove drifting outward, tempting even those who cannot afford a cup. Between these heavier smells drift the lighter notes, the sweetness of apples piled high, the tartness of cherries, the faint musk of wool, the clean bite of fresh-cut wood. Horses add their own earthy presence, hay and sweat and leather mingling with the sharper scents. Dogs, too, lend their musk, wagging tails as they scavenge for scraps beneath stalls. Even the smoke of torches, the dust of trampled ground, the sweat of the crowd, all become part of this heady perfume, this mingled memory of market day. Pause-eyed and breathe it in. Imagine standing at the heart of the square, eyes closed, only scent to guide you, bread warm and sweet, chestnuts nutty and rich, honey golden, fish sharp, meat heavy, herbs clean, spices strange and thrilling, each breath a feast, each breath carrying you deeper into the life of the square. For those who lived in the Middle Ages, these scents were more than pleasure, they were signals. The smell of baking bread told of food ready to eat. The smell of salted fish meant security for winter. The smell of herbs promised healing. The smell of spices meant wealth or celebration or festival. Scent was knowledge, memory, survival. So the market became not only a place of trade, but a place of flavor, of taste, of delight. Each purchase carried not only nourish but fragrance, each meal prepared afterward carrying echoes of the square. Bread eaten at a cottage table, fish cooked over coals, honey spread upon crust, all carried the memory of the market with them. As the day lengthens, the scents deepen. The sun warms the square, releasing sweetness from fruit, sharper notes from herbs, heavier smoke from roasting meats. The air is thick with flavor, rich enough to fill even the hungriest. It clings to hair and clothes, follows home in baskets and cloaks. It lingers long after stalls are emptied, long after voices fade, long after the square falls silent again. The market is sound and color, yes, but it is also scent and flavor, a banquet for the nose and tongue. It is Vede's hunger is met, celebration is kindled, Vede memory itself is woven from taste. The market was never the same twice. It teemed the year turned, surely ways fields greened and withered, it surely way lambs were born and snow fell. If you stood in the say corner of the square each week, near the church steps or by the inn door, and watched for a year, you would see 4 worlds pass before your eyes, each with its own colors, scents, sounds, and small graces. Spring arrived not with trumpets, but with tenderness. Dawn came earlier, pale and pearly, and the chill that lingered at the edge of morning felt lighter, threaded with birdsong and the wet scent of thawed earth. Stalls woke from their winter narrowness, spreading a little wider, hopeful. Baskets held the first brave greens, sorrel nettles soft enough to eat, watercress bright dew thoughts. A woman with chapped hands and a shawl still thick from winter folded bundles of leeks beside a row of eggs speckled in cream, each one a small promise. Children came in cloaks patched and mended, but beneath them new tunics peep, linen washed and hung to dry in a wind that finally smelled of rain without ice. The baker loaves seemed lighter too, if flour had learned to breathe again. The fishmonger, who had stood all winter with a red nose and stout heart, joked that even the eels were in a better mood. On a good morning, the apothecary spread out early herbs, coltsfoot, violet leaves, a few sprigs of mint, and the air around his table was a green whisper. You could smell wool washed and dragged into the sun, the ghost of smoke on winter-stored hams cut thinner now to last until garden rows ripened. Ribbons returned to the cloth-seller's stall, shy and past test, and a few girls, laughing, unwound them and braided them into one another's hair. When rain came, it came soft. Droplets, secretly beaded on cabbages, turned the cobbles slick and shining. A patient mother tucked a honey cake into a child's hand and said, "Mind the puddles," knowing the puddles would be minded only long enough to leap into them. Boots made cheerful music, squelch and squeak, and the day went on. At noon the bell sounded brighter, as if the tower itself had rubbed winter from its voice. And if a stranger passed, a pilgrim with a cockle shell on his cap, a tinker with a hopeful smile, he was given a cup and a place near the brazier by spring-made room. Summer did not ask permission. It arrived with a tumble of abundance and the low hum of contentment. The square baked warm by mid-morning, heat shimmering above the stones, stalls swelled, fruit stacked in pyramids, skins taut and fragrant cherries that stained fingers, gooseberries with bristly blush, strawberries hidden in green like secrets, clay jugs gleamed slick and cool, the potter dipped a ladle and poured water that shone like glass. The herb sellerization became a small garden, all resin and sweetness. Rosemary kept company with thyme. Sage nodded beside fennon that smelled of anise and the sea. Now the market had the sounds of fans beating at skirts, of sleeves rolled to the elbow, of laughter lazy with warmth. Dogs napped under benches, tongues lolling, shifting only when a shadow moved away. A boy who could not sit still chased the shade as if it were a shy animal, dragging his stool with him. The fishmonger morning tang faded under the afternoon sweeter notes, honey softening in jars, loaves split open to cool hot oil sighing fritters browned and were dusted with a pinch of sugar, rare enough to be discussed for days. Cloth flared brighter, woad blue that challenged the sky, madder red dipberry stains. A traveling piper played quick reels that sent small feet flying, and even the cobbled tapping seemed to learn the tune. At the edge of the square, behind a screen for decency, a washerwoman wrung out linen with forearms strong ven ropes. The smell of sun-wet cloth drifted like a prayer for fresh sheets. If a breeze lifted, it carried meadow hay cut in far fields, crushed clover, the faint, sweet fatigue of work nearly done. By afternoon, shade became currency. Ale tasted sharper from a cool corner, and the spiced wine cellar dared to add less heat, more sweetness, letting cinnamon rise with the air. The blacksmith quenched iron with a hiss that sounded of the entire day sighing. Children shared a cup and then another, mouths shining, and a grandfather who had told the same farm joke every market day for 30 years made it last twice they long, 'cause summer was for stretching. Autumn walked into the square, arms full and pockets rustling. The light turned thicker, gold poured slowly over stone, and wood shadows arrived sooner. Gent stalls rounded out with a hay of keeples piled into hills, waxy and pale when blushed, and striped like the bellies of fortunate fish, pears softened in straw, the scent so ripe it made you think of warming hands and saved sweetness, onions braided, their skins crackling with dry laughter, cabbages enormous and self-possessed, squashes with ridges like friendly armor. The nutman rattled his sacks, hazard and walnut, chestnut to roast and stain fingers brown. The butcher hooks bore better weight now that animals were fattened, and he seasoned his jokes haste generously, these his sausages. Smoke threaded the air, patient and blue, from meat houses at the edge of town ways. Salt and thyme began their slow good work. The miller, who had spent summer coaxing the river into steady turning, stood straighter now, flour on his sleeves like the first frost of stories he would tell by the hearth. Autumn had its own music, the thump of full sacks set down with pride, the low clatter of apples in a child bucket, the busy whisper of brooms stall keepers swept leaves that arrived faster than hands would move. They were extra hands now, cousins from hamlets, in-laws visiting with news of distant hedgerows, travelers drawn by the promise of the fair dice clicked more often on tables. Fortune seemed looser, a silver coin flashed in sunlight, and everyone smiled, because even someone else luck was a feast for the eyes, nim miracle in show, and the headline of usual phonias narration, or the 10 ivering zersen for runo of tears. The spelled is a sign masteroid is a movement. My daughter Miss Nicolis, Luciazen were vast and tea in Kani, idituini, 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 idituini. Irrituini, irrituini, tuini, irrituini, vrimtuin. The apothecary colors deepened, roots dug and washed, sliced and dried bottles that small sunsets lined in a row. He spoke of air turning keen, of broths a medicinal with a pinch of this and that. Mothers bought bundles of thyme for coughs not yet come, and felt the victors in battles not yet begun. In a corner, a cooper charred the insides of a new cask, the scent rayed warm and vanillary, and the brewer nearby nodded like a man reading a promise. Winter did not ask to be liked, but it did not come empty-handed. The square shrank and clarified fewer stalls, tighter circles round braziers, breaths turned visible like the morning shy confessions. What came to market now had been decided, week's oak by hard choices and careful hands, smoked fish hanging dock, ained old stories, salted pork in slabs that required the butcher most persuasive blade. Cheeses with rins you had to knock politely before they agreed to give you a piece. Candles stood in small forests of tallow and beeswax, their scent pot barn pot honeyed sun saved in secret. Wool, ruled flisses to spin, cloaks to mend, mitted like small houses for cold fingers. The cloth seller laid out bolts, Thix promises sensible browns and grays, with a single ribbon of red so the year would forget itself entirely. At the brazier, chestnuts popped their warmth moved up the arm like a story you did not realize you needed until it reached your throat. A man sold kindling tied with twine, his hand stung, but his smile was easy, for he knew he sold comfort itself. The blacksmith forge was less a spectacle now than a refuge. People lived near, palms open to the heat, cheeks prickling alive. The indoor breathed stew barley and onion, and a forgiveness of bacon, and the ale cellars of breath made clouds. He laughed at something he had told himself. A girl with a red scarf counted coins twice before buying a small cone of sugared almonds. She ate them slowly, one by one, if practicing patience for longer nights. Winter sounds were close-knit, boots crisp on frost, the hush after a stall-holder brushed snow from a canvas, the intimate clink of coins ungloved into a palm. Voices dropped low, if not to disturb whatever the sky was considering. Yet there was cheer a piper played, a chord that made even the butcher eyes soft. The priest passed with a blessing and a smile that could be felt through any number of layers. A child learned the magic of catching your own breath in the cold and letting it go to see if it made a shape worth naming. Across all 4 seasons, things did not change. The square itself, those stones remembered every step. The bell kept its duty. The ferryman came to buy nails whether the river muttered or sulked under ice. The dogs learned where scraps were likely and continued their faith year-round. The old men compared this season to another season no one else remembered, and, in doing so, kept whole years from slipping through the whirled fingers. But it was the small seasonal rites that made the market a calendar you could walk through. In spring, a woman tucked the first wild garlic into her apron, if it were a letter from Mess Old Fend. In summer, a boy learned where the baker kept the water bucket and how to offer it to a tired stranger without being told. In autumn, a family set aside their best pair for the priest, who'd blessed the flock in a sickness year. In winter, a tired pedid found a ribbon tied around his packstrap. No note, just a bright loop like a held breath, because once, on a long-ago night market, he had given a child a broken top for luck, and luck, it turned out, remembered. Pause in the middle of the square and turn slowly. See spring wet shine on stone, summer a shimmer, autumn mellow gold, winter pale glass. Smell the river keen fish and nettle soup, the hot apple tang and clove, the nut brown smoke slow sweetness, and the tallow honey hush of candlelight. Hear the blacksmith clang, learning to sing 4 different songs, the piper tune changing tempo with the day length, the bargain laugh that is the same in any weather. For those who lived then, the market was more than buying and selling. It was the year made visible, edible, breathable, single. It was how you knew time was moving and that you were moving with it. It gave names to hope and shapes to patience. It let you greet the same faces in different light and be greeted yourself, feed part of the square faithful weather. When, after many seasons, someone stood again in that favorite corner by the church steps or the inn door, they could feel a whole year inside a single breath, and it would taste of bread and chestnut, of pear and pepper, of wool and wood smoke. They would know that spring would come. The sorrel had a way of arriving, that harvest would be then, 'cause sacks had thumped this way before that, winter would be born, 'cause hands had learned bound spawn warmth in the shape of each other. We would tears the marshroith around in the shape of each other, we may clease of bemedley heinemanias of our own voix. The market did not conquer the seasons. It accompanied them, walked beside them, learned their steps, carried their music forward. So the year turned. So the square turned with it. And so did the people. Steady as a bell, bright Tate a banner, patient N bread rising, grateful lay hands clasped pursed over a mug on a cold morning. For children, the market was not duty or trade but wonder, where adults saw prices and bargains, labor and necessity. The young saw magic. To them, the square was a festival, even on ordinary days, a place of laughter, of surprises, of tastes and sights unlike those at home. They came, clutched their mothers' skirts, peering out wide-eyed at the press of bodies. They skipped ahead of their fathers, chasing dogs and scattering chickens. They ran barefoot across cobbles, their voices carrying above the crowd, sharp and high like birdsong. The market was their playground, and every corner offered discovery. First were the sweet stalls, irresistible honey cakes, still warm, their tops sticky and glistening, sugared almonds, rare and costly, sparkling like jewels in small cones of paper, dried figs and raisins, chewy and sweet, their scent rich and exotic. Children tugged at sleeves, eyes pleading, "Please, mother, only one." Sometimes they were denied, coins too scarce, but sometimes, if the week had been kind, a small treat was bought. A honey cake split between siblings, a fig cut in two, each piece savored slowly, joy glowing as bright at any festival. Then there were the toy sellers, carved wooden whistles painted bright red and green, little spinning tops that danced upon tables, dolls stuffed with scraps of wool, their faces sewed with simple stitches, tiny horses carved from bone, wagons fashioned from scraps of wood. The toys were humble, yet to a child they were treasure. A boy spun his top until it wobbled and fell, his laughter ringing. A girl cradled her new doll, whispering to it though it cancer. The market gave not only food, but dreams. Children found delight in the animal pens well, cages of het clucking and fluttering, ducks splashing in tubs of water, piglets squealing, wriggling beneath ropes, sheep bleating, their wool thick and shaggy. To grown eyes these were goods to be sold, meat or wool to be weighed and bargained. To children they were marvels. A boy stretched a hand through a cage, laughing at a chicken pecked his finger. A girl squealed at a piglet, snuffled her bare foot, its nose cold and damp. Animals made the market alive in a way coins never could. The performers drew children too, jugglers tossing balls or knives into the air, their rhythm quick, their smiles sly, puppeteers setting up small stages, painted cloth backdrops, wooden figures dancing upon strings, minstrels strumming lutes, singing ballads of knights and dragons, their voices carrying above the crowd. Children pressed forward, eyes shining, mouths open, hands clapping in delight. Even when the stories were old, told 100 times, they never lost their wonder. For a child, each puppet was alive, each song new, each trick a miracle. Not on the play was given, much of it was invented on the spot. Children raced through the square, weaving between adults, chasing one another until caught and scolded. They played at markets of their own, trading stones for twigs, pretending they were coins and wares. A boy strutted with a stick upon his shoulder, declaring himself a merchant of wool. A girl laid out a row of leaves, offering them with apples. Their laughter rose above the din, bright as bells. Sometimes children turned the market into a place of adventure and daring. They crept close to the spice seller's stall, daring one another to sniff pepper and sneeze. They dipped fingers in honey jars when no one watched, licking them clean with guilty grins. They climbed onto barrels, balancing until toppled, tumbling down in heaps of laughter. The scoldings they received were sharp but short-lived, for parents remembered their own childhood markets, their own mischief, their own awe. There was also learning hidden in play. A girl watched her mother bargain over cloth, listening to the give and take of words. Later she repeated them in her own pretend market, her voice mimicking her mother firmness. A boy followed his father to the blacksmith's stall, watching the hammer fall again and again. Later he picked up a stick, striking a stone, pretending to forge knives for kings. What began there's play grew into skill, grew into memory, grew into the shaping of lives. For children, the market was also a place of stories carried home, a puppet show retold by firelight, a toy spun before siblings who had not come, a sweet described in een, its taste remembered long after it was gone. Even a single glimpse, a knight riding through on a tall horse, a jugged balancing on one foot, a goose breaking loose and chased by laughing men, became memory, became legend in the mind of a child. The market gave them tales to hold, to treasure, to carry forward. Pause now and see it through their eyes. The square is not a place of prices and weight, but a carnival. Everywhere, something gleams, something sings, something surprises. Dogs dart, ribbons flutter, chestnuts roast, lutes play, dolls smile. The world is alive, generous, endless. Each step brings new delight, each corner another marvel. In truth, the market was shaped by the mess, was Haven. Their laughter softened the hard edges of bargaining. Their play brightened the long hours of trade. Their joy reminded all who watched that life was not only toil, not only coin, but also wonder. Even the weary farmer, counting pennies with care, smiled at a child vain. Even the stern merchant, frowning at a bargain, softened at a child laughter. As the sun climbs higher, children tire. The honey cake is gone, the doll tucked safe, the toy top slipped into a pocket. They rest now in the shade of stalls, heads upon mothers' laps, eyes heavy with sleep. Fathers lift them into carts, their small hands still clutching ribbons, their hair scented with smoke and spice. The market, so bites, so overwhelming, becomes dream even before they reach home. For children, the market was not a duty but a wonder. It was the place where senses awakened, where play and learning mingled, where stories began. Though they grew, though the magic softened with age, the memory remained. The smell of honey, the sound of lutes, the feel of a doll-stitched face, such things never left them. In later years, they would bring their own children to the market, smiling yet wide eyes and eager laughter bloomed anew. As the market reaches its height, when stalls are busy and coins clink steadily, another current flows through the square, one not of trade, but of art. For alongside the merchants and craftsmen came the minstrels, the jugglers, the storytellers. They brought with them a different kind of wealth, songs and tales, laughter and marvel, delights for the ear and the eye. The minstrel is among the first to be bait. He stands with lute slung across his chest, its wooden body polished smooth by years of playing. He plucks the strings, testing, then begins a tune. The notes rise above the market clamor, light and quick, and soon a small crowd gathers. His voice joins the lute, singing of knights and quests, of ladies fair and dragons fierce. Children gape, their mouths open. Women smile softly, recognizing old tales. Men nod in rhythm, tapping feet, though they pretend indifference. The song weaves through the crowd, lifting spirits, making burdens lighter. Beside him, another player sets a pipe to his lips. The notes are high, sweet, piercing, carrying across the square. His fingers dance, the melody quick and playful, like birds flitting through hedges. Dogs prick their ears, children clap their hands, and suddenly the market feels like a festival, though the day is ordinary. For music has that power, It transforms the familiar into something more. There are drummers, too, their hands striking stretched hide, their rhythms steady and deep. The beat thrums in the chest, in the feet, calling listeners to sway, to step, to dance. A group of youths begins to circle, stamping, laughing, moving in time. Their parents scold, but their eyes soften, for the music is irresistible. Even the merchants, stern and intent on coin, glance up, nodding slightly. The beat carries them. Then come the jugglers, their art wordlet yet commanding, balls tossed into the air, spinning, falling, caught with ease. Then knives glinting bright, flashing arcs of danger turned to beauty. Children cheer, their eyes wide, their voices shrill with excitement. Coins drop into a cap laid upon the ground, for wonder deserves reward. One jugged balances on a rope stretched between posts, his arms wide, his smile sly. He bows 80 sways, making children squee. Mothers clutch their skirts, fathers laugh. The market becomes a stage, and every eye turns to watch. There are puppeteers, too, their stages small, but their stories large. Painted cloth backdrops show castles, forests, dragons. Wooden figures dance upon strings, their voices given by the puppeteer, pitched high and low, comic and rave. The tales are old but beloved. St. George and the Dragon, Reynard the Fox, the deeds of Charlemagne. Children crowd the front, leaning so close their noses almost touch the stage. They laugh when the fox tricks the crow, gasp when the knight raises his sword, sigh when the maiden is saved. For them, the puppets are alive and the story is truth. The storytellers themselves are another wonder. They stand upon barrels or stools, their voices strong, their gestures wide. They tell tales without lute, without puppet, only with words, and yet those words paint pictures brighter than any cloth, sharper than any carving. They speak of saints who walked barefoot on snow, of devils outwitted by clever peasants, of hunters lost in the forest, of kings crowned in glory. Their voices rise and fall, quicken and slow, weaving suspense and laughter. Listeners lean in, drawn close, caught in the net of words. When the story ends, there is a sigh, a pause, then applause, coins tossed, thanks murmured, the teller bows, then begins again, for there are always more tales. Sometimes the music, the juggling, the storytelling combine. A drummer beats, a piper plays, a jugged tosses, a storytell chants. The crowd grows large, laughter ripples, coins clink, children dance, dogs bark. The square becomes a carnival. For though markets were made for trade, they were also made for gathering, for joy, for the sharing of art. Pause now and imagine yourself in the square. The air alive with song, with rhythm, with story. A lute strums, a pipe sings, a drum beats. A jugged knives flash, a puppet dances, a storyteller voice carries around you. Faces glow, smiles spread, laughter bursts. The square is not only commerce, but celebration. For those who lived in the Middle Ages, the market was one of the few times when such delights could be found. Minstrels and jugglers did not visit every village, did not perform every day. Their art was rare, precious, treasured. A sing-song could be remembered for weeks. A sing-story could be retold by the hearth, embroidered and reshaped, carried into memory. Children imitated jugglers with apples, strummed lutes of sticks, retold tales to younger siblings. The market gave them gifts beyond food or goods. It gave them imagination, wonder, joy. So music and storytelling were vital to the market hodel de mer or wool. They fed not the body, but the spirit. They reminded listeners that life was not only toil, not only coin, but also song and laughter. They made the square into a place of light, even when days were heavy. As afternoon deep pay, the songs continue, the juggling dazzles, the stories roll, voices grow hoarse, fingers tire, yet still they play, for still the crowd gathers, still coins fall, still laughter rises. The market becomes a festival of sound and sight, a theatre of the everyday, a stage where they may watch and on may belong. By late afternoon, the market square changes its nature. The trade does not vanish, but its soft fells remain busy. Coins still pass from hand to hand, but something else rises now, an air of celebration. For many markets were timed to festivals, and many festivals began in markets. The two were bound together, trade and joy, labor and play, coin and song. It begins with the banners, bright cloth unfurled from windows, from poles, from the beams of the Guildhall, reds and yellow, blues and greens, painted with emblems of saints, of towns, of guilds. They ripple in the breeze, catching the sun, and suddenly the square seems brighter, dressed for occasion. Next come the garlands. Women and children weave flowers into chains, hanging them from stalls, draping them over doors, twining them about posts. Green leaves and blossoms scent the air with freshness, mingling with bread, with spice, with smoke. A young girl wears a crown of daisies, her brother a chain of ivy about his shoulders. Their laughter is as much part of the festival, the garlands themselves. The church bell rings deeper and longer now, not calling to prayer alone, but announcing joy. Its notes roll across the rooftops, echo through the square, answered by shouts and cheers. The priest appears, carrying relic or banner, followed by acolytes with candles and incense. A small procession winds through the square, its hymns blending with the songs of minstrels, its Solomon softened by the cheer around it. For in the Middle Ages, the sacred and the merry often walked hand in hand. The maypole rises, strong men lift the tall trunk, planting it firmly in the earth at the center of the square. Ribbons stream from its crown, bright and fluttering, red and white, blue and gold. Children gather first, grasping ribbons, circling in laughter, their steps uneven but joyous. Then youths take their place, weaving in and out, their ribbons crossing in bright patterns, their feet stamping in rhythm to drum and pipe. The crowd claps, cheers, sings. The pole becomes the heart of the square, binding all into one dance. Elsewhere, dancers join hands, forming circles, moving in simple steps, forward and back, turning and clapping. The dances are old, taught by parents, learned by watching, carried in memory. They are not elegant, but they are joyful. A weaving of bodies bathes the ribbons weave upon the pole. Old men tap feet, old women smile, remembering when they too danced in circles, when their steps were lighter. Food grows up its mouth, for festival is not festival without feast. Stalls that once sold plain loaves now offer sweet pastries, dusted with sugar, rare and costly. Ale flows more freely, mugs lifted, laughter louder. A spit turns with whole pigs roasting, their skins crisp, their fat sizzling upon coals. Chicken, geese, rabbits, each prepared, seasoned, spiced if coin allows. Apples are dipped in honey, nuts roasted with herbs, cheeses cut into generous wedges. The square smells richer than before, heavier, indulgent. For this is no longer only trade but celebration, and celebration calls for plenty. The performers return brighter than before. Minstrels play livelier tunes, their lutes quick, their voices loud. Drummers strike faster, pipers trill higher. Jugglers add daring fire, torches now instead of knives, the flames whirling against twilight. Acrobats leap, tumbling through the air, their bodies twisting, their landings greeted with cheers. Puppeteers put on longer plays, saints and miracles, comic devils and clever peasants, their stories richer, their endings louder. All is heightened, brighter, fuller. The market is not only a place of trade, but a stage for joy. Children weave through it, their hands sticky with honey, their cheeks flushed with dancing. They chase one another around the maypole, tumble in grass, clap in rhythm to the drums. Their joy spills into parents' smiles, into strangers' laughter, binding the crowd tighter. Through it runs the sense of community. Neighbors who bartered in the morning now feast side by side. Families who rarely spoke now dance to Des. The Lord Steward may sit with peasants, drinking from the same jug. The priest may watch a jugged, smiling despite himself. For festivals leveled life, at least for a day. They reminded all that beyond toil, beyond duty, there was also celebration, also joy. Pause ye and see it with thee. The square bright with banners and ribbons, with garlands and flowers, the maypole tall, its ribbons weaving bee dancers circle. The air thick with scents of roasting meat, sweet pastries, spiced wine, music loud, drums deep, pipes shrill, lutes strumming, voices laughing, cheering, singing, faces glowing in lamplight, in firelight, in joy. For the people of the Middle Ages, festivals were more than merriment, they were release, relief, renewal. They rocked the seasons, spring planting, summer harvest, autumn fairs, winter feasts. They rocked the sacred saints' days, holy days, miracles remembered. They rocked the human, the marriages, the births, the victories. Festivals gave rhythm, gave meaning, gave memory. Without them, life would be only labor. With them, life was also light. As evening approaches, the festival only deepen. The sun lowers, lanterns are lit, the sky turns violet. Still the drums beat, still the ribbons fly, still the laughter rings. The market is no longer a square, but a world entire, a world of color, scent, sound, and joy. For all come who gather, farmer, merchant, child, priest. It is a reminder that though life is hard, though work is endless, there is also this joy, this feast, this dance, this song, this festival that turns toil into memory, that turns hunger into fullness, that turns silence into song. As the festival grows into its full bloom, the square shifts once again. The music continues, the stalls hum with trade, the dancers circle the maypole, but now a new energy fills the air. It is the thrill of contest, the joy of sport, the laughter of games, for a festival is not complete without merriment, without play, without challenges to stir pride and delight. It begins simply with children games. A group gathers near the edge of the square, chalk lines drawn upon cobbles or stones set in a circle. They play at throwing bones, each one polished smooth, casting them in patterns, catching them upon the back of the hand. Their shrieks of laughter rise, the pieces clatter, yet a toss is won or lost. Another group races, barefoot and laughing, their hair flying, their steps quick. They dash between stalls, weaving through legs until caught and scolded, yet still laughing, still flushed with joy. Older youths gather for more daring sport. Wrestling matches begin, two boys gripping one another, straining, stumbling, rolling upon earth or stone. The crowd circles, cheering, clapping, shouting advice. A victor rises, chest heaving, sweat upon brow, pride shining in his eyes. Another challenger steps forward, and the contest begins again. It is not anger, but joy. a trial of strength, a test of spirit, greeted with laughter and applause. Nearby, a space is cleared for Archer, a target set upon hay, a painted circle bright and bold. Men string their bows, arrows nocked, their eyes narrowing in concentration. The twang of string, the hiss of arrow, the thud it strikes. Cheers erupt when a shot strikes true, groans when it flies wide. Boys watch closely, dreaming of one day joining, of one day proving their aim. Some take up smaller bows, loosing their arrows short but proud, their fathers clapping them upon the back. Others turn to contests of strength. A great stone is set in the square, heavy, immovable to most. One by one, men attempt to lift it, to raise it to knee, to waist, to shoulder. Muscles strain, faces redden, grunts and shouts rise. Few succeed, but those who do are cheered deed heroes, their names remembered, their feats retold. Even those who fail laugh, for the game is not only in victory, but in the tying. There are races too of men, of horses, of even sacks carried upon backs. Lanes are cleared, crowds lining to watch. Men sprint barefoot, their steps pounding the earth, their breath loud, their arms pumping. Children run too, their legs shorter but no less eager, their laughter louder than their panting. Horses thunder past, hooves striking, riders leaning low, cloaks streaming. Dust rises, cheers rise higher, the thrill of speed filling every eye. In quieter corners there are games of chance, dice rolled upon tapes, bones clattering, fortunes rising and falling with each cast. Cards or tiles laid in patterns, hands quick, eyes sharp. Coins pass swiftly, laughter and curses mingling. Some win and lose, yet a play, for the gain itself is joy. There are also festive games played only upon such days. Blindfolded men chase geese, laughter exploding maze they stumble. The bird flaps away, pigs greased and set loose. Children shrieking, they dart after them, hands slipping, laughter ringing. Prizes are small, a coin, a loaf, a ribbon, but the joy is large, the memory larger. Music accompanies a drums beating faster, pipes shrilling higher, lutes strumming lively tunes, the rhythm spurs, runners, the beat drives dancers, the melody lifts, laughter. The square becomes a hall of play, each sound a spark, each cheer a flame. Pause and see it, the square alive with bees, with contests, with merriment, boys wrestling, girls racing, men shooting arrows, wind laughing, children chasing, horses thundering, dice clattering, drums beating, pipes wailing, voices rising, faces flushed, eyes bright, joy uncontained. For the people of the Middle Ages, such games were more than amusement. They were practice, preparation, pride. Wrestling taught strength, archery taught aim, racing taught endurance, yet they were also binding. A community that laughed together, that cheered together, that played together was stronger, closer, more whole. So the afternoon fades toward evening, the games continue. Victors are crowned with garlands, prizes awarded, laughter echoing. The market is not only a place of trade, not only a stage for music, but a field of play, a school of joy. As the last contest ends, as sweat cools and laughter soft for the people, return to stalls, to feasts, to songs, yet the memory of games lingers, the thrill of speed, the joy of strength, the laughter of falling, the cheer of victory. The festival has given not only food and music, but also play, and in play it has given life. The fairground is never still for long. Just as dawn begins to brighten the low clouds above the fields, figures are already arriving along the roads that lead into the town. Some come on foot, cloaks pulled tightly about their shoulders, their boots coated with the dust of men miles. Others ride sturdy pack horses or guide ox-drawn carts, the wheels creaking that they bump over stones. They come not only from the villages nearby, but also from distant places, carrying with them the scents and sounds of other lands. To walk through the gates of the fair on such a morning is to feel the world grow wider with every step. Here one passes a pilgrim in a patched cloak, a wooden staff in his hand, the badge of a holy shrine tied proudly to his hat. Next comes a merchant from far across the sea, his robe dyed a deep shade of indigo unfamiliar to local eyes, his beard carefully trimmed, his speech laced with accents strange and musical. Behind him trudge his servants, balancing crates of fragrant spices on their shoulders. The air stirs with the perfume of cinnamon, pepper, and cloves, drifting out into the morning breeze, e'en though the whole fair were scented like a faraway market on the edge of the desert. Children, quick-eyed and curious, often pause to stare at these newcomers. A boy may tug at his mother's sleeve and whisper, asking from what kingdom the strangers have traveled, and whether the bright parrot perched on a pole near their stall leaded cross the sea on a ship mast. The bird squawks, shakes its green feathers, and turns a golden eye toward the crowd, as though to confirm that it has indeed seen more oceans than most men will well dream of. The variety of tongues spoken at the fair is bewildering. Around one corner, a group of Breton sailors argue loudly. They unload casks of salted fish from their wagons. Near the churchyard, Flemish weavers display bolts of fine linen, their speech brisk and clipped, their gestures quick, and mingling with them, German merchants off strong metalwork and leather goods, their words rounded with a different rhythm. Those who have traveled far learn quickly to bargain not only with coins but with hands, pointing, nodding, and smiling when words fail. Amid the bustle are entertainers who travel from fair to fair, weaving a web of music and marvel. Jugglers toss brightly painted balls in rhythmic arcs, drawing small crowds that press close in admiration. Minstrels pluck at their lutes, their tunes floating high above the noise of the market like birdsong carried on the wind. Some tell tales of lands no one here has seen, of mountains that smoke with fire, of rivers wide as seas, of emperor whose palaces dazzle the eye with marble and gold. Whether true or embroidered, the stories leave listeners dreamy-eyed, imagining horizons far beyond their own. At a crossroads in the fair, acrobats from Italy set up a wooden stage. They balance on ropes stretched high above the ground, their costumes sewed with colored ribbons that flutter as they leap. Gasps rise from the crowd as one performer somersaults through the air, landing with scarcely a wobble on the narrow line. Coins rain into their basket when the act concludes, for though the crowd claps politely for local singers and jesters, it is the foreign marvels that stir the greatest wonder. The animals brought to market add their own strangeness. A trader from Spain leads a small camel, its long neck bending curiously toward baskets of apples. Many have never seen such a beast before, and they laugh ease, choose with slow, solemn on, lips twisting in comic fashion. Nearby, a man from the north has tethered reindeer to a post, their antlers branching like trees against the sky. Children gape at them, half fearful, half entranced, while their parents marvel at the thought of such creatures pulling sleds across snowbound forests. Not on who wander rare are merchants. Some are pilgrims on their way to holy sites, stopping to rest and replenish their supplies. They sleep in the fields outside the town, wrapped in cloaks beneath the stars, their dreams mingling with the music drifting faintly from the fair. Their presence lends the gathering an air of devotion, for even in the midst of laughter and bargaining, one may glimpse the scallop cell of Santiago or the cross of Jerusalem stitched proudly on a traveler cap. Other wanderers are harder to place. A fortune teller with dark, searching eyes lays out painted cards on a cloth, offering glimpses into the future. A healer from distant mountains carries bundles of dried herbs, claiming to cure fevers, soothe pains, and protect children from night terrors. Some locals regard them with suspicion, crossing themselves they pass, but others press close, eager to sample remedies said to come from lands beyond the known map. The mingling of strangers sometimes brings unease. A merchant may grumble that foreign cloth undercuts his prices, or a farmer may scowl at unfamiliar coins whose worth he cannot judge. Yet, just as often, curiosity softens suspicion. A local baker may strike up a conversation with a Lombard spice trader, learning how to add nutmeg to sweet cakes. A blacksmith, impressed by a German's sturdy tools, may invite him to share a jug of ale and swap tales of their craft. Bit by bit, across such encounters, the fair becomes a meeting place not only of goods, but of minds. At night, the impression deep lanterns are lit along the lanes, casting halos of light that fall upon the faces of travelers. Thither round fires, the air fills with a mixture of languages, laughter, and song. A Breton sailor may teach a chorus to a circle of locals who try the strange syllables with hesitant amusement until the tune becomes their own. A minstrel from Provence may join his lute with a bagpiper from the north, the unlikely harmony drawing listeners into a circle that feels, for an hour, like a family there in the glow of shared sound. The smells of cooking mingles well, smoke from spits, turning with cuts of mutton, steam from kettles of barley broth, the sweet scent of roasted chestnuts sold from a wooden cart. Travelers share what they have carried, dried figs, almonds, or hard cheese. Locals offer bread fresh from their ovens. Around such exchanges, barriers melt. A child who earlier stared at the bright colors of a foreigner robe now tugs at the hem, asking for a story, and the stranger, perhaps weary from the road, smiles and begins to speak, his words carried across the firelight like sparks drifting upward into the night. As the fair continues, the memory of these travelers lingers. Long after the jugglers have moved on, children will still practice tossing stones into the air, trying to catch them in a rhythm. Housewives, inspired by spices bought in tiny pouches, will experiment with new flavors, transforming ordinary stews into marvels of fragrance. Farmers will recall the sight of camels or reindeer and tell the tale to neighbors, each retelling adding its own touch of wonder. The fair thus becomes more than a marketplace. It is a doorway through which the wider world steps briefly into the lives of those who dwell there. When the fair finally ends, when carts roll away and tents are struck, the silence feels almost startling. The locals look about and see only their own familiar faces again. The streets return to quiet. Yet in their minds remains the echo of distant songs, the shimmer of silk, the strange, solemn eyes of foreign beasts. For a few days they have lived within a tapestry woven of men threads, a fabric richer and more colorful than any could make alone. It is a memory to be treasured until the fair returns, and with it, once more the travelers and strangers who carry the world upon their backs. As the light of day soft-feathered toward evening, another layer of meaning unfolds in the market square. The colors, the laughter, the games all remain, but threaded through them is something deeper, older, more solemn. For in the Middle Ages, festivals were rarely only about food or play. They were tied to the rhythm of the church, to the saints, to the turning of holy days. The sacred and the joyful walked hand in hand, woven so closely together that one could not be told apart from the other. The church bell tolls again, slower now, its notes carrying weight. The crowd stills for a moment, voices fading. Fadas turn toward the church. From its doors emerges a procession, the priest in his vestments white and gold, carrying the cross aloft. Acolytes fall with candles flickering, their wax scent mingling with smoke and spice from the square. Another swings ascend, and the fragrance of incense curls through the air, sweet and sharp, rising above roasting meat, above honey cakes, above sweat and smoke. For an instant, the market square feels like a chapel, roofed not in stone but in sky. People kneel upon cobbles, upon grass, clutching children close. Voices murmur, prayers, hands cross foreheads and breasts. The procession moves slowly, winding through the crowd, a relic carried high, bone of a saint, a fragment of wood said to be holy, wrapped in silver, shining in evening light. As it passes, heads bow, whispers rise, blessed be. Protect us, remember us. The noise of trade fades to stillness, the laughter of games to reverence. The red is the hound of Logan, that's the heart of the hood is meddled in the malsam. Bones. The overnounce was for lay joy. Hymns become louder, voices stronger, and soon may mingle again with the songs of minstrels, with the laughter of children, with the beat of drums. The sacred does not silence the merry, but joins it, blessing it, sanctifying it, making it more. Many festivals are tied to saints' days. On St. John Day, fires blaze at the edge of the square, their flames leaping high, sparks drifting like stars. People circle them, hands clasped, voices singing hymns that are half prayer, half song. Young men leap across the flames, daring and laughing, their courage blessed by the saint. Girls wear garlands of herbs, believing they will dream of their true loves that night. Children wave torches, their faces alight, their joy carrying both play and devotion. The fire is both sacred flame and festival blaze, both prayer and merriment. On the feast of Corpus Christi, processions carry the host itself through the streets, the priest lifting it high, the canopy spread above. Flowers are scattered before, herbs strewn upon the path, bells ringing, voices chanting. Stalls close, merchants bow, music softfudge, children fall silent. And yet, when the procession passes, when the prayers are said, the square blooms again into festival tables laden, mugs lifted, laughter rising once more. Even in the great fairs, merchants came from distant lands, spices and silks dazzled eyes. There was always space for the sacred. A mass at dawn, a blessing at noon, prayers spoken before trade began. Crosses hung above stalls, candles burned before saints' images, donations given for the poor. For no feast was complete without the church, no festival complete without prayer. The sacred framed the day, shaped it, gave it rhythm and meaning. Yet the sacred did not dim the joy, rather it gave it depth. To dance upon a saint day was to honor the saint. To feast after Mass was to thank God for his gifts. To laugh, to sing, to play, all became offerings, all became praise. The line between solemn and merry blurred until they were one, each strengthening the other. Pawsey and Vatan, the square lit by lanterns and candles, garlands hanging, banners flying, the priest in gold vestments, the relic gleaming, incense rising. Around it, stalls bright with fruit, spits turning with meat, minstrels strumming, jugglers tossing, children laughing, sacred hymn and folk song blending, prayer and cheer mingling, the square a tapestry of devotion and joy. For medieval people, this was the heart of life. Work was hard, hunger close, danger real. Yet holy days came, saints' feasts returned, the church bell rang, and with it came relief, celebration, connection. The sacred gave permission for joy, the holy gave space for laughter. Life was not only labor, not only burden, but also feast, also festival, also song. As evening, deep torches are lit, fires burn, hymns and songs rise. Together the priest blesses the crowd, hands raised, words flowing. Then, if on cue, drums sound, pipes play, dancers circle once more, the people return to merriment, but it is not the same as before. It is merriment, blessed, sanctified, lifted. It is joy made holy. As the sun dips low, shadows lengthen across the square. The stalls, once bright with noon light, now glow with a softer warmth. Lanterns are hung from poles, candles set in iron holders, torches lit along the edges of the square. Their flames flicker in the breeze, painting faces with gold, setting cloth and pottery gleaming, turning the market into a world of light within darkness. The air cools, carrying the sense of evening smoke from torches, spice from mulled wine, sweetness from roasting nuts. The smell of day labor still lingers, of animals, of sweat, of earth, but its soft fed now overtaken by the richer fragrances of feast and fire. For the night market is not labor, but lingering, a time when trade slows and delight rises. Stalls that in daylight bustled with bargaining now become places of pause. The cloth merchant folds his wares neatly, yet leaves spread, their colors rich in lamplight. The potter stacks his jugs carefully, their surfaces gleaming like polished stone. The baker brings out his last loaves, their crusts dark, their warmth fading but still welcome. Customers linger, slower now, coins still exchanged but more gently, voices softer, laughter quieter. The square feels different at night. Where midday was noisy, pressing, crowded, evening is gentle, more intimate. Groups gather at tables with mugs of ale, their voices low, their laughter subdued. Families sit upon benches, sharing sweet cakes, the day purchases beside them, children drowsy from play, lean against muds, their hands still sticky with honey, their eyes heavy, their words slow. Dogs curl near feet, their tails thumping softly, content. There is still life, still vibrancy. The musicians play on, but their tunes shift. No longer the quick dances of afternoon, but softer airs, ballads, lullabies. A lute strums slowly, a pipe sings gently, a drum beats low and steady, like the heart itself. Couples sway together, parents hum with children in their arms, old men nod, their eyes closing edif in dream. Music becomes not only entertainment but comfort, a blanket of sound spread across the square. The storytellers too remain, their voices softer but still strong. They tell tales suited to night, of saints who walked by starlight, of maided who saw visions in dreams, of shepherds who heard angels on the hillside. Their gestures are slower, their words longer, their cadence soothing. Listeners lean close, warmed by lantern glow, their imaginations carried gently into other worlds. Coins are still dropped into cups, but often more from gratitude than wonder. For at night it is not only marvel that is sought, but peace. In corners of the square, quiet bargains continue. A farmer sells the last of his apples, eager not to carry them home. A woman buys herbs for her supper, her face thoughtful, her voice low. A boy barters a toy for a cake, his grin bright in the lamplight. Trade continues, but it is not hurried. It is slow, unhurried, like a river andering toward rest. Torches flare wind shifts, sparks rise into night, and above the first stars appear. The square becomes two worlds at once. The firelit world below, alive with glow and laughter, and the starlit world above, silent, eternal, distant. Together they frame the night market, making it both intimate and infinite, both small and vast. The animals settle too. Horses stand quietly, tails flicking. Geese tuck heads beneath wings. Their honks now soft mutters. Hen does in wicker cages, their feathers fluffed. Even dogs who barked all day now lie curled, their eyes half closed, their ears twitching only when scraps are tossed their way. The market is not only for people, but for creatures too, and in night they share the same rest. Pause V, and imagine yourself walking slowly through the night market. Lanterns flicker, their light swaying. The cobbles glow warm beneath flame, the air cool against your face. Music drifts, slow and soft. Voices murmur, laughter low, steady. The scents are rich, but not overwhelming. Bread cooling, wine spiced, nuts roasted, herbs fragrant. Everywhere a hush beneath the life, a quiet beneath the cheer. For medieval people, the night market was rare. Not every square was lit with lanterns, not every evening gave space for such gathering, but when it did, it was treasured. It was a chance to linger with neighbors, to share food and song, to let the day weight slip away. It was safety in numbers, warmth in company, joy in the dark. Children fell asleep in their parents' arms, lulled by the hum of voices, by the strum of lutes. Couples walked hand in hand, their faces lit by lantern glow, their words soft. Old men leaned upon sticks, smiling at memories stirred by song. Merchants counted coins slowly, their minds at ease after a day trade. All were bound together in the night, all part of the square gentle glow. When the hour grew late, when torches sputtered low, when lanterns flickered faint, the stalls began to close. Cloth folded, pottery stacked, food packed away, coins tied into pouches, the square emptied, slowly, gently, voices faded, footsteps dwindled, dogs stretched and yawned. One by one, stalls went dark, the glow of lanterns winking out like stars. At last, the square lay quiet. A few embers glowed, fires had burned. A veil lantern swung before the inn. The church tower loomed, its bell silent above. The sky stretched vast and dark, stars countless, the moon silver upon roofs. If the market, which had sung and shouted, laughed and played, now rested, breathing with the night. For the night market was not only a place of trade or feast, but of peace. It was a reminder that even in darkness there could be light, even in toil there could be joy, even in life burdens there could be rest. By dawn of the next day, the market square is no longer bright with banners or noisy with trade. The laughter has faded, the songs have stilled, the stalls have vanished. What remains is the quiet breath of aftermath, the ghost of a festival lingering in silence. The cobbles are scattered with remnants of the day before, a few cabbage leaves trampled underfoot, their green dulled and torn, apple cores tossed aside, now brown, pecked at by crows. Stray feathers from geese and chickens drift in corners, caught in the breeze, their whiteness dulled by dust. Here and there a scrap of cloth, dropped and forgotten, flutters against the ground. The smell of smoke lingers still, faint in the morning air, mixed with the sharper tang of spilled ale, of crushed herbs, of sweat dried into stone. Dogs nose through the square, sniffing for scraps. They find bones left beneath benches, bits of bread forgotten by children, a nut fallen from a bag, their tails wag as they scavenge, their hunger eased by the leftovers of plenty. Birds swoop low, crows and sparrows alike, pecking at crumbs, carrying them away to nests. The creatures of the town are always the last to feast, and they leave nothing to waste. The stalls themselves are mostly gone. Merchants folded their cloth, stacked their pottery, packed their herbs, and left long before the square grew quiet. The potter wheel is silent, the baker oven cold, the forge no longer glows, the cooper tools lie idle, yet traces remain. Iron nail dropped near the blacksmith corner, a curl of shaved wood where the carpenter worked, a patch of flour blown into a crack in the cobbles, small signs, faint echoes, reminders of the work that filled the day. The square is not empty, though. A farmer lingers, sweeping with a rough broom, clearing the worst of the straw and dirt. A woman stoops to gather wilted greens for her pigs, filling her basket with what others discarded. Children search too, their sharp eyes finding small treasures, a broken bead, a bent pin, a ribbon half torn. To them, even what is left is marvel, and they carry it home as if it were gold. The silence is not complete either. It is filled with softer sounds, the creak of shutters opening, the cry of a rooster, the murmur of neighbors greeting in hushed tones. The church bell rings again, not for festival now, but for ordinary prayer, its sound smaller, gentle. The square, once alive with music and laughter, now settles back into its daily rhythm, its heartbeat slowed. Yet in the minds of those who walked here yesterday, the festival still lingers. They remember the banners bright, the ribbons flying, the music loud. They recall the taste of honey cake, the smell of roasting meat, the thrill of games, the joy of dance. Children wake with ribbons tangled in their hair, with dreams of puppets and jugglers still alive in their minds. Farmers speak of bargains struck, of cloth bought, of tools mended. Merchants count their coins, their purses heavy, their voices content. The aftermath is not only quiet stone, but memory carried in hearts. For markets and festivals were never meant to last. They were moments, bright and brief, set against the long rhythm of labor and season. They were candles lit in the dark, sparks that flared, glowed, and faded, but left warmth in their passing. The empty square is proof of that rhythm, the turning of joy into memory, of noise into silence. Pause and walk with it through the aftermath. The cobbles are cool beneath your feet, the air fresh with morning dew. The stalls are gone, but you see their shapes still in your mind. The sound of laughter echoes faintly, though the square is quiet. The smell of spice drifts in memory, though the air is clean. You are surrounded not by noise or crowd, but by echoes, by shadows of what was, and in those echoes lies peace. The people, too, carry the aftermath differently. The poor treasure their purchases, a loaf of bread, a string of onions, a small bundle of herbs. The wealthy think of their luxuries, spices, fine cloth, perhaps a trinket of silver. Children clutch their toys, their treats, their prizes from games, showing them proudly to those who did not attend. Musicians count their coins, jugglers share their winnings, storytellers rest weary voices. All are tired, yet all are filled, for the festival gave more than it took. The town itself holds memory in its stones. The guild hall still smells of spilled ale. The innkeeper wipes his benches, sticky with wine and grease. The church floor is scattered with petals and herbs from the procession, pressed into its flagstones by countless feet. The market square bears faint marks, scratches from carts, scuffs from boots, drops of wax where candles drip. All will fade with time, but for now they are visible signs, the handwriting of the festival upon the town. As the day passes, the square becomes ordinary again. Farmers lead their oxen through, heading to fields. Children carry water jugs, hurrying to chores. Women wash loaves, their laughter quieter, their voices more practical. Men sharpen tools, mend fences, fetch wood. Life resumes its steady pace, the pulse of work and need. The market song has ended, but its echo remains in the rhythm of daily life. For the people of the Middle Ages, this aftermath was part of the pattern. Joy was fleeting, but it returned. Festivals came and went, markets opened and closed, but each left its mark. Each shaped memory, each gave strength for the days ahead. The empty square was not loss, but promise, that joy had come and would come again. As night falls upon the aftermath, the square is still once more. A still torch burns before the inn, its light flickering upon stone. The church tower rises, its bell silent, its shadow long. The stars return, the moon rises, and the square sleeps. But in the homes around, in cottages and chambers, the festival lives on in stories retold, in laughter remembered, in dreams carried into sleep. The aftermath is silence, yes, but it is also fullness. It is the breath drawn after laughter, the pause after song, the rest after dance. It is the gentle reminder that life is not only toil, but also festival, not only burden, but also joy, not only hunger, but also feast. Now the square lies quiet. The banners have been folded, the garlands faded, the stalls taken down. Where once there was music and laughter, now there is silence, deep and wide. The market has ended, the festival has passed, and the town has returned to stillness. Yet if you pause heed, if you let the quiet settle, you will feel it, the memory of joy, the echo of song, the warmth of company. For such days do vanish. They linger like the scent of spice in cloth, like the trace of honey on the tongue, like the rhythm of drums in the chest. Close your eyes and remember the market at dawn, farmers arriving with carts, hets clucking in wicker cages, merchants calling their first greetings. Remember the fresh loaves steaming in the baker hands, the fish laid bright upon boards, the apples piled high, their scent sharp and sweet. Recall the murmur of voices, the creak of carts, the ring of the blacksmith hammer as the square awoke. Let your mind drift to midday when the market was at its height. Cloth, bright-dyed flowers in spring, pottery gleaming in the sun, herbs sharp, honey golden, minstrels strumming, jugglers tossing, children laughing, these they ran. The square alive, crowded, humming like a hive, every sense filled, every heart stirred. The market tade a tapestry of sound and color, scent and taste, life woven into pattern. Remember, too, the festival that followed. The banners unfurled, the ribbons twined about the maypole, the dancers circling in joy. Fires blazing on St. John Day, processions with incense and relics, hymns blending with laughter, games of strength, races of speed, contests of chance, feasts laid with roasted meats, mugs of ale passed hand to hand, sweet cakes savored, spiced wine warming hearts. A square transformed into a world entire sacred and merry, holy and human, toil lifted into joy. Then the evening, the night market glowing with lanterns, music softening to lullaby, voices murmuring low, families theirs, children drowsing, neighbors lingering, songs turning gentle, stories drifting into dream. The torches flickered, the stars shone, the market hushed, becoming not a place of trade but of peace. At last, the aftermath, the cobbles empty, feathers and scraps scattered, dogs sniffing for bones, children searching for treasures. The silence deep, but filled with memory, with echoes of laughter, with whispers of what had been. The festival gone, but its warmth carried home, its joy folded into hearts, its rhythm remembered. Pause ye, and let the this gather within you. The market at dawn, the bustle at noon, the festival in full bloom, the quiet of night, the hush of aftermath. A circle, turning like the year itself, busy and bright, then quiet and still, joy rising, joy fading, joy remembered. Such was the rhythm of life in the Middle Ages, such is the rhythm of life itself. For markets and festivals were not only moments of trade or merriment, they were the heartbeat of the community, the breath of towns and villages, the weaving of lives together. They gave food, yes, and cloth and tools, but they also gave laughter, song, memory, belonging. They reminded all who came that life was not only burden, not only toil, but also feast, also play, also joy. As drawing you rest, let the memory of that market linger. Let the sense of bread and spice drift softly around you. Let the sounds of lutes and laughter fade gently in your mind. Let the colors of ribbons and banners glow dimly behind closed eyes. Let the warmth of the crowd, the hum of voices, the glow of lanterns wrap round you like a cloak. The square is empty now, the stars shine above, the world is quiet, but within the market lives on. Its joy is yours, its peace is yours, its rhythm is yours. Sleep now, the town sleeps, rest, the market rests, of banners and ribbons, of songs and stories, of honey cakes and dancing fires, vein of voices mingling, of children laughing, of drums and bells and hymns, dean of a square alive, then quiet, then alive again. For joy returns, markets return, A's festivals return, seasons turn, even in silence, even in sleep, their memory remains. Good night.